Вітаю на нашій першій сесії.
Greetings. This is our first session, first discussions. Many familiar faces from last year. Unfortunately, not all the people involved are still with us for different reasons. So let's thank in our mind, in our heart, thank those.
Дякую. Знаю, що була у нас
Thank you very much. We had a moment of silence originally, but still we have to bear in mind. We cherish love and memory of those people who perished in this terrible war. And we'll hear more stories about activist LGBTQ plus movement and people who defended Ukraine. And you have the cards. This is our discussion. We are trying to summarize the developments from last conference, both positive and negative. Let me check just how closely coincide our visions, our expectations. So if you think that based on this discussion, we can see that the year has been more successful than unsuccessful for the moment, it's a green card. And if it's more on the negative side, it's a red card. So let's start, and I'll try to count. Great. Perhaps we have some volunteers here. Well, so far 8 to 9 red cards. The rest overwhelmingly green. It's great. Anna Morach. Perhaps you've been to my YouTube show. I'm a member of the board of public radio broadcaster. So here's the procedure. We will listen to everyone, be succinct, be brief, and during this discussion, if we have any questions, please put them down, put your ideas down, but the question should be not personal, too personal. Alina Sarnatsky, veteran of war, advocate, writer, and radio broadcaster. Yulia Familia from Trans Community National Board from Odessa, fighting TB and HIV/AIDS, and the organizers of this conference named Olena Shevchenko a front woman of women's fight for equality, head of Insights, and head of Women's March and Public Initiative, and one of the 12 Women of the Year according to Time Magazine, US, 2023. And Sviatoslav Sheremet, we've heard from him already, coordinator on policy and legislation of the National Consortium, LGBT Pro, founder and head of Gay Forum of Ukraine, promoter of equity for LGBTQ plus in cooperation with the government and parliament and government. And we'll listen online to Zoryan Kis, Ukrainian diplomat, and perhaps you've heard nothing about him as a diplomat, perhaps, but he is representing the precedent case of marriage, single-sex male marriage, and he's representative of pride movements of Ukraine. And Zoryan is there, I can see.
Пропоную перед тим, як перейти до
We'll transfer him to the big screen, and you'll see him. When the time comes, we can play the same game. Expectations being or not being met, I would like you shortly, in one sentence, in one phrase perhaps, to outline one victory of this year and one failure of this year for you personally. Let me say my victory is H11 9103, not with us anymore. Olena Shevchenko National Lesbian Conference that we had recently is the victory. And a failure, I don't like the notion of failure. I think this is the road to success, whatever it takes, but the single-sex partnership not yet embraced in Ukraine. Victory is implementation of MKH11, the strategic plan adopted by the Ministry of Healthcare for transgender people. With implementation will be psychedelic, if the term is right, meaning they will be recognized as completely normal. Victory or failure is the result of some kind of struggle. So the main point of struggle was to integrate our topic into the Euro integration roadmaps. Ukraine is committed. Now, this is a victory committed before the EU for civil and civic equality and equity. Failures. Yes, together with you, we vetted two draft 91035488. We knew them by heart in figures, but this is a relative failure because it's both of them are being reincarnated. We'll have some time for that. Alina, please. I'm not a leader of any movement, but for me personally, Zoryanki's case was a landmark case. This is believe in partnership, but there are no partnerships, and this is a failure, no partnership. And Zoryan, the floor is yours. Greetings, good morning, everyone from Tel Aviv. Alina, thank you very much for your appreciation. And for the reference, let me say about our case that to me personally, victory and failure is the same kind of event or case. This is our case with Timur, because without any doubt, this is a great victory for the community after many years of struggle in information space. I would like to thank Olena Shevchenko, Oksana Guсь, and Insight for the advocacy. They were helping us. And at this moment, we felt strong support, powerful support. The failure, though, is like they had at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They told me that they had nothing to implement as far as this ruling is concerned. So we live in different jurisdictions with Timur, getting ready for a new trial, which will make it mandatory for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to arrange for our reunion. Thank you, Zoryan. We'll discuss that in more detail. And I'm very grateful that many of you have mentioned that there's no failure as such, because this is about progress, this is about developments, and a road of 1,000 miles starts with a small step and continues with the small steps. Let's discuss the small steps. 91035488. These drafts are not topical anymore, but I would like to invite Sviatoslav Sheremet to share the good news. But one clarifying question before that. With Zmina Advocacy Center, we discussed this new draft on punishment of hate crime 13597, signed by 30 MPs. This is a great number versus the previous attempt, and Yakoveva's assistant, and she motioned that Mikita Burov is his name. after our discussion in the Winds mentioned that he saw the chance in joint advocacy with other discriminated groups without focusing specifically on LGBTQ movement. I can understand his logic. I am concerned. We do not want to lose key provisions on gender identity between the two readings, the first and the second. If we don't, well, do you think, Sviatoslav, that having united with Roma organizations protecting people with disability will have better chances for this advocacy? Do you see this cooperation as a possibility and opportunity? There are two questions in this one. Dear colleagues, I would like to start not with a draft. Draft is a vision. That's the motioning party, their vision. It will happen, maybe it will not. It can be successful, it can be not so successful. It's just a moment of struggle. Let me instead discuss the de facto, the established facts. Well, dear colleagues, what is happening now? There are three principal political processes: theoretically, development, progress, there's degradation or regression, and there is stalemate, stagnation. And what is happening to the community can be characterized as progress plus stagnation. Some processes are progressing, some are stuck. There is no regress. And I am positive about this observation. This is the good news. Now about the progress. Last conference happened about a year ago. It's interconference period, a year. As a civil society, one part of civil society, we advocated for seven novelties legislation-wise. As Anna said, we are making small steps, and this is a long valley that has no ending, as the saying goes. Let me be brief here, discussing the 7 up to 6 were involved in LGBTQ plus developments in one. It's an exception in we signed as the government our cooperation program with Austria in January 2025, and the contracting parties decided, or signatories decided, to highlight diversity in arts and culture with women's achievements and people of different sexual orientation achievements, emphasize LGBTQ plus, and the contents of the societal relations. Till 2030, we have this, last January, we had this adoption of the new healthcare strategy, high quality health services regardless of sexual orientation and gender identity. We have achieved that, this is done, and all the system should be based on sensitivity and taking heed of the needs of LGBTQ+. We have the national barrierless space strategy. We can imagine this having to do with people with limited mobility, but this is inclusive. The barrierless process is lack of barriers for different social groups, which for some reason are marginalized or limited in their social capacity. According to the strategy of barrierless life or attitude, we have to put a barrier in the way of hate speech and aggressive expressions which stigmatize people based on their sexual orientation. This is one step away from criminalization. We mentioned this 5488 being buried, but this is a step in the right direction. And the fourth thing, it is important for our state, because we used to take the lead, to lead the fund strategy for equal rights and opportunities for men and women. In May this year, we enshrined in that document LGBTQ plus as one of the groups, and all the gender policy in Ukraine is now based on taking into account of the aspect LGBTQ plus or gender identity. This is an effective provision, mind you. And another two developments, very good news. In August this year, we saw another document from the National Agency for Civil Service. Local mayors, municipal officials started to discriminate LGBT plus, Q plus, making statements, denying the partnerships and so forth. Now the changes are approved and adopted for the General Code of Conduct for Civil Servants, according to which all those people are obliged to prevent and never admit any hate speech or anything which would command or explain or justify discriminatory expressions. Mayor Marcinko from Ivano-Frankivsk and other people can be made liable now. And the conclusive news from the Prosecutor General's office. Well, and there was that new strategy signed by Prosecutor General Kravchenko last October. So we have selection and appointment of prosecutors based on merit related criteria, regardless of the sexual orientation and gender identity of the candidates. Well, this is about inclusivity, and this is about sensitivity. Summarizing, now we have the state of Ukraine because of our advocates, not always, but very often, they refer to sexual orientation, gender identity as protected directly, openly, with a strategic vision of development in this realm for the government and for the state. That's what has happened. And we'll have to postpone some discussions because we will have the right time and venue for that during this conference. There are some processes that you mentioned, Svetoslav, but gender as a notion is something that makes our MPs apprehensive sometimes. We'll have some time to discuss that, I'm sure, but there are many topics. There are many brownie points of success, things to be proud of through the year. We can be proud, we can be sure that the country is changing. There is no case law, but in our country, we are continental from that point, but Zoryan and Timur Levchuk, Desnyansky district court for the first time recognized two men as a family and a household. And thanks to Oksana, who's certain people involved in this joint work, well, on the Court of Appeal turned the complaint down, but Zoryan, this is not a case law country. This is not a common law country. This is a continental law. So what are the prospects of this case? Thank you very much for the question. Indeed, the Desnyansky District Court back in June recognized not just the fact of our partnership being a family, but they used this notion for the first time on factual marriage relations. And that's both success and failure, because factual marital relationship that was historically used for partnership of heterosexual couples, but well, along with that, the same time, the very notion of factual marital relationship is called civil marriage, that's the popular term, but he cannot join me here in Tel Aviv with my posting here because my colleagues diplomats can be followed in their postings by their spouses being in a registered, not factual marital relationship. And we all know about this movement. I liked it very much that, well, they wouldn't mention it, but you are right, and we shouldn't even mention there's people, they appealed this case, it was turned down, and they helped unwillingly because we now have a higher instance court upholding the original decision of the first instance Nationallgbtiq district. Now they applied to Supreme Court, and I expect the Supreme Court also to uphold the original decision of the first instance court. This is shortly about our case. There was another question in your question. We shared the victories, and you said that there should be some further development in the context of you being a diplomat and enjoying the same rights as heterosexual couples. Thank you very much. I would like to repeat that this is off the record, basically, for the time being, but for me personally, it was a very important thing. Namely, this fight for our rights as a couple, but also all the community and rights of the LGBTQ plus diplomats that we have in the system, but they are closeted for some reason and would not come out. Well, you see, my colleagues, diplomats, female diplomats, can go with their partners, male partners, regardless of all the limitations of the martial law. This is a classical case, in my view, of discrimination, and this kind of discrimination, well, we have to fight anyway. It is very important. What's next? Together with Oksana Goods, our attorney, we are filing another petition on my behalf. I'm asking the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Timur to join me. I expect a denial, and with that denial, we will proceed and make the second circle, so to speak. The irony of this situation is in the fact that in 1.5 to 2 years, my posting will expire naturally, and Timur and myself, we won't be able actually to have this reunion in Israel, in Tel Aviv, where I'm posted. But I hope that I will be still able to be posted and go with Timur. And I'm fighting not just for our couple, but for all the people who have to stay closeted with similar problems in our diplomatic corps. For Zorian to see how his case, his attitude influences us in Ukraine currently thinking and viewing this. So the green cards, if you are hopeful and you believe that it is very important for you personally, and red, it's just green. It's just green. Zoran, I'm not sure whether you can see that. Thank you very much. We are now closing this panel, but and Olena Shevchenko and is the person who worked with Insight on this case, and This is another success, the first lesbian conference in Ukraine, and I would like us to start discussing the outcomes, the results, and why it was so important for a moment to have this conference.
Thank you for this question. I will start speaking, and you will see that this is relevant with the previous case. The more you know, how do we support you? And I believe that this is a very important victory for the whole LGBT community. Recognition of the factual marriage relationship is important. We should not stop with that. And I believe that this is not the first homosexual couple that want to be recognized. There is a couple. As for the lesbian conference, it was very timely because we see this insurge on the gender rights, not only in Ukraine but everywhere in the world. Listening to what Svetoslav mentioned about the successes in our fight for our rights, but I would like to warn you that anti-LGBTIQ movements in Europe and anti-LGBTIQ right movements in Europe are strengthening these days. And recently, the EU court had issued a resolution that for all the LGBTIQ marriages, if they are registered in their home countries, they should be recognized everywhere in the EU. But we clearly observe an attack, some negative trends as to the rights of LGBT communities, lesbian rights, gay rights, etc. Today, Anna mentioned that we all remember how it started. I remember quite well how it all started. I am very keen to do everything possible to strengthen lesbian rights in Ukraine. Lesbian women, queer women, transgender women, they need support quite often. We have kids, and the rights of those kids also are important. The first step is about rights and about partnership. Okay, but we should remember about the rights of their kids. Many women had left Ukraine, and they have their children there. They have got married. These are homosexual or lesbian marriages, and now they will not be able to bring back these children as lawful children of both spouses. And that is, we will cut off this one of spouses from the rights on those kids. And the same is the case with past parents, I mean lesbian or homosexual marriages where one of the parents is killed because of the war, and the second parent in this time has no rights on the child of this partnership. So for us, that conference was not about grants, was not about legislation. It was about life. It was about our lives. It was about our rights. If in course of a full-scale war in Ukraine, we cannot find justice, sacrificing our lives, then there won't be hope for us. We had 212 people who were registered at our conference, and they very proactively contributed to the discussion. This was a very professional level of discussions. Those who attended the conference, they know. So next year, I would like to invite you to attend the conference. I think you will enjoy it. Thank you. I've been planning to record a reel dedicated to so-called grant spending because people tend to connect grants only with the human rights. I would like to refer to that resolution of the European Court, which made it mandatory for all the member states to recognize single-sex marriages, and some time ago, the same European Court commented that in Poland, they do not comply with that resolution. And some days ago, Prime Minister Donald Tusk once again emphasized that nothing could be imposed on Poland, and nevertheless, we in Ukraine have visible servicemen who belong to LGBT community, and Insight is aware about negative cases when there were attempts of attacks on LGBTIQ centers. And today we have Alina Sarnatska with an ally of LGBT community who published a book which is a collection of interviews with the LGBT community members in Ukraine. I think this is a very positive fact. And another positive fact, a survey about situation of Ukrainian LGBT community members who serve in Ukrainian army, and this survey suggests that during the war, an attitude towards LGBTIQ military has been improving, and 63% agree that the army status should protect LGBTIQ community. Alina, now a question to you. What remained beyond the survey, and what would you like to comment? Well, I should say that on top of that, one company, one publishing house, which when I've written the book about LGBT veterans, I had difficulties with the publishing houses willing to publish that. So I approached to four such publishing houses. Many of them rejected, and it was only one publishing house, Видавництво, which agreed to publish it. I recollect one unit where when we had one bisexual person and one ultra-right person in the same military unit in one room, living in one room. And I had a chance to observe how they'd been changing, how all the people in this room, how all 6 people in that room had to change their views, had to adapt. And actually, this was a move of activism. This was true activism. So I had to write down that book. But I underestimated that book, and because neither book critics condemned that book, I never read negative reviews of that book, and the book had good sales. We had our release presentation in Sense. At the beginning, we had seen the attack of the right groups. We are very lucky to have such a weekly potent rights, and it took them too long to put on their balaclavas in front of the Sense bookstore where our presentation was about to start. It took so much time for them that police arrived and detained them. Then my presentation in Schrödinger's cat in Lviv also was expected to raise emotions and agitation, and unfortunately I was getting late, and I was getting late. My train was coming late, and the people from the bookstore in Lviv wrote to me, "We have got a group of ultra-right people sitting there," and I asked them, "What are they doing?" "They are aggressively sitting," and then when I came in the bookstore and I presented myself, "I am Alina, I served in the military unit, this and that," and it took them 4 seconds to realize that I am a military woman, that I'm a person in military service, and they raised and left the room silently. And the book is being read, the book is being supported, and so you can see how American administration erases all the references to women in military service in general. In my opinion, a book is something that you cannot erase, and I love my characters from my book. I want them to survive in time, in history, that 200 years later, when a historian would like to write down a book about our times, they would be able to open a book and see all the names. One of my podcasts, Volunteers, was recorded in Donetsk region, and back in 2022, I found members of ЛГБТІК community who also worked at the front line, at the contact line in Donetsk. One of my big victories this year is beginning of implementation of
небажання вбити бісексуальних ворожнів
MKH11, and when we started to prepare one of our releases of a podcast, somebody loves somebody, we have found information that majority of people get information about transgender people from movies, from TV, from public media. Ukraine has joined since 2014, transgender will become a part of the area of sexology, not the area of psychiatric medicine, and instead of hormone substitute therapy, it is recommended to use another term, hormone supportive therapy. So my question to Yulia, what shall we do to improve the process? The Ministry of Healthcare has established a strategic plan, and they've been implementing this resolution. We are not very much happy because we stuck with the formula "nothing about us without us," but and transgender people are the most interested in approval and implementation of this document. We have only Ina Iriskina from inside who are included in the implementation group, official implementation group. unlike many other transgender community members, and this is our big concern. Humanitarian organizations of transgender people, trans emancipation resistance, they have established a coalition of transgender organizations, and our objective is to advocate for involvement of transgender people into this working group of MCH11. MCH11 is a good document, but it has no provisions for implementation. Now, we have such a thing as gender disparity. It is not a diagnosis, it is a distress which people gain in result of conflict between the sex and gender perception, and it is based on the International Health Classification version 10, while version 11, which is more sensitive in that as to that category of people, it is being delayed. This is a very controversial issue. Of course, we are gradually depathologizing it. We are shifting from psychiatric disease, transgenderness from psychiatric disease to a just sexual problem. Transgender disparity or gender disparity should be correctly written in all the medical documents, and that requires involvement of medical manipulations, medical technologies, and it all has huge specificities. That's why transgender people should be very much involved into all this implementation process, and I see a lot of hands, and these days we'll be discussing a roadmap for the next year. And now I would like to ask you, what should be added to the roadmap in the area of your expertise? Zaryan, the floor is yours. Thank you. My answer will be of paradox nature. I would encourage you to think not only about what to add, but how to establish three major priorities for the LGBT community. This should be top priorities for everybody. This is my personal opinion. We have been living in a world where any decision maker reads not longer than one page, and there will be only three first items out of 28 which will be implemented. I won't offer you any idea what priority items you should put forward, but I encourage you to do your best to formulate all your priorities within one page, and keep in mind that you won't be able to achieve success just in one or two priorities, not more. Святослава, what about you? I fully agree with Zaryan that we as a community, we can and we should focus our attention on just one or two legal interventions. This is legal initiative on the partnerships, civil partnerships, and the second about persecution of hatred speech and gender-based hatred. In my opinion, we should clearly and loudly state what we need and what we want. On the other hand, LGBT community is rather big. It comprises 20 different communities, and the roadmap should cover all these organizations. Last year, when we saw this or that opportunity for this or that priority, we were able to put it forward and try to implement. So, in my opinion, we have to state a clear list of our needs and wishes, and then to look at the opportunities at the moment when they arrive. During the last 10 years, I've not been participating in any national conference. That's why I do not know what was implemented. But first of all, we have to determine what do we mean under a community, and who advocate for what. MCH 11 is implementation is a top priority for us, and Inai Riskina is involved in that. Back in 2016, we contributed to an amendment of the correction of sex, and this is important for us. Partnership is important, and not only via pieces of legislation. We will promote the rights. We are an organization which can help you with sexual orientation, sexual identity. We work with intersex separate protocols, crimes based on hatred, implementation of MCH 11, and partnerships. These are my three main priorities. Yulia, what would you like to add to these priorities? MCH 11, this remains our top priority for many years, but as a community, we stand for equality and for visibility. Sveta mentioned some legislative initiatives. We have very good definitions of sexual orientation and gender identity, but not all the documents contain gender identity. some guidelines for government officials, they contain only gender equality, not gender identity. I think we should pay attention at this omission and work on it. Alina, I agree with the top priorities which were mentioned before me, and when advocating, we should mention LGBTIQ veterans because this is an important factor which contributes to prompt passage of the law on partnerships because people sees people are being killed quite often, and for the spouses it is important when a person is heavily injured, when he or she is in intensive care unit. In this case, the spouses are not allowed to attend their spouses in intensive care units, etc. Sveta, do you want to add? Yes, the third item about gender identity. We have European strategy of equality for LGBTIQ. It mentions not just two characteristics, it mentions four characteristics. So one more task for this year is to teach our government officials sexual orientation, gender identity, the sexual characteristics. So we have is SOGI already included into our legislation, but we have to add two more, and they should become a foundation for our work. If you have got any ideas about roadmap, you should find the organizers team. You had seen them at the opening, and mention to them what you want to be written. Whether we have time to pick up one more question, or we have to shift to another session.
I don't see any. So very short question indeed. Very short indeed. I'm partner of a military officer. Name is Gennady Zoryan, Olena, Alina. When this case, Zoryan and Timur case appeared, it is great that it was won in court, and it is cool that it was upheld by the appeal, the appellate instance. But what I can envision there, this is a case of two diplomats, and it's Timur joining Zoryan. Well, if we file a case in court, institute legal proceedings, in everyday life, in routinely, I have Xviii, I have a letter of attorney for some privileges, and I'm not there in his life. So the utility compensation, I'm not entitled legally. Do we think about everyday household things, things of our everyday life, to have some cases with repercussions, and we have to think one or two steps forward? A very short answer. That's what we are thinking about, the specific cases. Like yesterday, I know one gay couple, one of them had an attack, and we had to break the door and take him to the intensive care for them to be recognized as a family. Factual. And that took place, actually. So the same should take place with everyone of us. Full stop. One question. Sorry, Dorian. Somebody mentioned me. My answer is very simple. Eugene, you have to do this in court. Advocate, fight for your rights, for your mortgage, for your privileges, for your allowances, all the everyday things that we go through as regular people, and your family in particular. I personally would very much appreciate this, because when we started the case, you see, it was Timur's question, why us again? Why not all of the community? Thank you for your answer. We have some positive news. We're going to have a coffee break for 30 minutes. I can still allocate time for a couple of questions as the moderator and volunteer. I'm Konstantin. I'm just a private person. I do not represent anyone. Can you speak up, please? I'm not well acquainted with the mic. We are one step away from criminal liability for degrading treatment, as far as I understand. I remember our dialogues on Facebook when we discussed there's some points, and you mentioned that you're against criminal liability in favor of administrative one. In my opinion, it should be reversed, should be vice versa, because the things that we let them do to us without any consequences, the 28 points, the proverbial, now we should put forward. Let's aim at the sun to hit the moon. As the saying goes, well, hate crimes, the punishment that we demand is smaller than hooliganism. There's this article in the Ukrainian criminal code. They just would like to avoid the very notion of homophobia and transphobia, not because this is making it big, but this will introduce, for the hate speech, though, one of the points for the rep office of the European Council in Kiev, for the Ministry of the Criminal Codes, to have this notion of hate speech. There is no such definition. There's just some kind of understanding that it is a bad thing, like Svetoslav said. 2 minutes to answer this one. This is a complicated question, because the draft we're discussing here, we have 13597. If you try to type it in, it's 13597. And it's about all sorts of liabilities for all sorts of offenses, for crimes, for violation of legislation on discrimination, and discrimination slogans or hate speech. And those are different departments or compartments. Something is under the criminal code and some under the code of criminal offenses. So, not diving any deeper, I invite you to discuss that at our following sessions. In more detail, we'll have the time and the space. Thank you very much to drawing our attention to this contradiction. It's really is visible. It catches our attention.